On behalf of the League of Women Voters of the Spokane area, welcome to one of our 2017 primary election candidate forums. I am Beverly Austin, your moderator. Election day for the 2017 primary is August 1st, 2017. Since this is a top two primary in which the two highest vote getters will advance to the general election in November, our forums will consist of races where there are more than two candidates. We hope this opportunity to learn about the candidates will help voters make an informed decision when marking their ballots. Now, before we proceed, a reminder about voting in the primary. You must be registered to vote in order to vote. You can register by mail or online by July 3rd, 2017, up to 29 days prior to Election Day. You can register in person up to July 24th, 2017, 8 days prior to Election Day at the Spokane County Elections Office, 1033 West Gardner Avenue. Registered voters will receive their mail-in ballots about 3 weeks prior to Election Day. Ballots must be postmarked or deposited in conveniently located ballot boxes no later than 8 p.m. on Election Day, August 1st, 2017. Ballots can be dropped off on Election Day at one of the voter services centers. For locations of ballot boxes or voter service centers or information about accessible voting units or other questions about casting your ballot, contact the Spokane County Elections Office, 477-2320, or go to www.spokanecounty.org/elections. Contact information for candidates as well as a voter's guide can also be found on the website of the Spokane County Elections Office. Additional information about the candidates can be found on the League of Women Voters online voter guide, www.vote411.org. And now we meet the candidates for Spokane City Council District 2, Position 2. This is a nonpartisan race, and only the voters in Spokane City Council District 2 will select two of these candidates to advance to the general election. City Council District 2 is generally the portion of the city south of I-90 and the downtown core of Spokane. Joining us today are Brianne Beggs, Andy Dunau, Tony Keepy, and Bruce Benata. The questions I will be asking the candidates have been formulated by the League's Voter Education Committee. Candidates are seated in alphabetical order, and the first speaker will rotate with each question. Candidates will have up to 1 minute to answer the initial question, with additional time for rebuttal or a follow-up question as appropriate. And each candidate will have the opportunity for a 1-minute closing statement. I will ask as many questions as time allows. Our timer, Molly Hannon, will hold up a card when the speaker has 15 seconds remaining and a red card to indicate that time is up. Our first question goes to Brianne Beggs. What qualifications do you have to serve in this position?
I've been serving as your district city council member since February of 2016. I'm on the Spokane Regional Health Board, Visit Spokane Board, and I serve on all the committees. I've been a lawyer for 25 years. I first came to Spokane in the 1980s to attend Whitworth College. I moved into the district in 2004 with my wife and 3 kids. I'm very knowledgeable about all the various city operations and all the decisions that we need to make. I'm most known for reforming criminal justice, our police department, and keeping the government open and transparent to all.
Andy, what qualifications do you have to serve in this position?
Well, thank you for having me here today. I moved to Spokane in 1989, 28 years ago, and I've lived on the south side the entire time. I've had a small business for 30 years. We specialize in communications, outreach, facilitation. What we're best known for is developing collaborations and partnerships which bring people of varying views together to come up with common ground, common sense solutions. And for 5 years, I served on the Spokane Parks Board. So I'm looking to bring that small business experience and my experience working with government and on the Park Board to the citizens of Spokane so we can get back to basics.
Tony, what qualifications do you have to serve in this position?
I moved to Spokane back in 2000 with my family, and we raised 4 children here. I got my degree in biology, a minor in chemistry. I also have my MBA in business administration. A couple years ago, I worked for the Spokane Valley Chamber of Commerce. I was constantly asked, Tony, why don't you run for city council? Well, I live in Spokane up on the South Hill. They kept recruiting me for city council back a few years ago. I was on the Government Actions Committee while I was in the chamber. I was on the Transportation Committee meeting and also the education. So I learned how government works during my time at the Valley Chamber. So I've been married to my wife for 29 years, and I'm ready to serve our community, Spokane, and get back to basics.
Bruce, what qualifications do you have to serve in this position?
Well, I basically came to Spokane in 1968, was here a few years. Family business, we own the Hyatt Lodge, which is now the Tiki Lodge, and we also owned the Spokane House at one time. That was back in the 60s, early 70s. Came back here in 1989, and basic experience, I've ran the Associate Development Organization, which is the EDC in Lincoln County. I've been ahead of the Human Resource Department in Walla Walla County. I was the County Affirmative Action Officer. I've overseen 23 social programs. I've also worked with the Economic Development Corporation, Big Bend, out of Grant County. Been a planner and written all the growth management and plans for Lincoln County and several small cities, and on and on.
Andy, we're going to start with you this time. In your district, what are your top 3 priorities?
My top 3 priorities are, as I said earlier, to get back to basics with basic services. And by that I mean fixing the streets first and foremost, supporting police and fire. My second priority is to make the infrastructure investments we need as a city to be able to create a welcoming business environment and to grow the job base, and that goes with things like streamlining permit regulation and those types of things. And the third thing is to get more efficient and more productive through innovation, whether it's through adoption of technology or coming up with new ways of working with each other. You put that together with collaboration and being able to work across departments and divisions and services and agencies, and I think we can get the city moving in a good direction.
Thank you. Tony, in your district, what are your top 3 priorities?
I want to give you the Spokane you deserve. The top 3 priorities, number 1 is public safety. There's too much property crime happening up on the South Hill. You look between 52nd, 53rd, there's been a lot more crime over the past couple of years. Just recently, there was a bust. So hopefully that will go down a little bit. But we do not have the police officer we need. We do not need a sugar tax. We need to look at our priorities on what our citizens need for our public safety. We need more police officers. Let's look at the budgets and make that a priority. I want better road improvements. Our road infrastructure has deteriorated over the years. We have not kept them up. Last year, we spent over $3 million on Freya just fixing it, and now we just fixed it, paved it again. It's not done correctly. We need to fix our streets by using the highest quality product possible so we don't have the potholes. Last year I had to buy 2 sets of tires on 2 different cars. In growing our businesses, I want to be business friendly. I want to make sure we bring the right businesses in with good paying jobs here in Spokane.
Bruce, in your district, what are your top 3 priorities?
Economic development is one of them. I used to run the Chamber of Commerce and Agriculture, and I think I've got a good handle on business and what needs to happen in the business world and what has to happen in permits, because I used to run the planning department and the building department in Pierce County once upon a time. Law enforcement is another. Let's see, in the past month, I've been robbed once. 3 cars have been broken into in front of my house. I have homeless living below my house that I have to roust out. So law enforcement is one of them, and they're getting better. The response time from the police department is pretty good in the neighborhood. The homeless problem, you know, they clean them out one day, the next day I'm back at the same spot, they moved back in. Had one yesterday below my house, came up, I had to call 911. Although I think she was really a security chief because she was checking all the doors to make sure everything was locked. So I think she's working for a security company. And she checked the mailboxes too. I think that's really important.
Brian, in your district, what are your top 3 priorities?
What I hear from my constituents is property crime and overall crime and public safety. 5 years ago, I started something called Smart Justice Spokane, and we've been working with the county and the city to reduce crime, come up with strategies that get people, instead of going in and out of jail, get them permanently out of the criminal justice system. Streets, right now we are spending more money on streets than we ever have in history. We're building them faster, we're building them better. There were several decades where the city didn't do it, but we're now doing it. And not only streets, but sidewalks on the South Hill are particularly in decay. And people need options so that we can walk and move and drive freely. Housing is the other issue, both at the low end, where there's so many homeless people. I helped negotiate to get a 24/7 homeless shelter back up and going again, but also just affordable housing throughout the city and quality housing. That's what people want so that we can live, work, and play in the city. Thanks.
Tony, is the current city budget aligned with your priorities for the city? Please explain.
Right now, we need to be spending our money on our needs, which is public safety, not our wants. Last night, we moved money from budget A to budget B, moved money from budget C to budget B, just so we could hire more ombudsmen. This is not what I would be doing. We could take that money, hire a new police officer. Last month at City Council, we took money from one budget, put into another budget, took money from the third budget, put in a second budget, so we could hire 311 operators. That's not keeping us safe. That's not protecting our property. That's the #1 responsibility of government, is protecting our citizens and protecting our property. We've got to look at our needs and make sure we have the money for our needs and put our wants second.
Bruce, is the current city budget aligned with your priorities for the city? Please explain.
I don't think so. I think what we need to do is once the budget, we need to set certain pots of money for certain services, and we haven't done that. We get the musical stuff of moving things from one budget to another. And all that does is the squeaky wheel gets the grease, which is happening in this town all the time. I come down, I complain, so that the council, we move a little money, we keep you happy, and it's not addressing the real problems that are happening in the city. You know, we need to stick with our goals, figure out what we're going to do, and spend the money effectively and get out there and do the job.
Brian, is the current city budget aligned with your priorities for the city? Please explain.
Yeah, we spend over 50% of our budget on public safety currently. We're spending hundreds of millions of dollars rebuilding roads and infrastructure. So I don't think it's so much that the priorities are out of alignment. It's how do we be more effective and how do we make up for years and years of ignoring important investments. We have a good plan now. The mayor and the council, we sat down earlier in the last year and put a strategic plan together so that we're making wise investments that'll save us money in the future. And those kind of creative, out-of-the-box solutions, working across departments, across the city council districts, that's how we're going to get to where we need to be. We only have so much money in the city, and people want more and more services, which is great. For the most part, the city is using their money wisely. If they had more money, they would provide more services. But the best way is to drive down crime so that we don't have to spend as much on public safety, and we have the police we need.
Andy, is the current city budget aligned with your priorities for the city? Please explain.
My priorities are, as I said, to get back to basic services. My biggest concern, and the reason I keep pushing for collaboration and innovation, is some of what I see in the city is not thought through. So, for instance, when you want more police officers, Brian has floated the idea of a sugar tax. That is regressive. It hits fixed family income people the hardest. That's grandma. But the other thing is, because it's only taxed on people who drink sugared soda, that means a small set of people are paying for police officers who are there to service all. And that doesn't seem to me to be particularly well thought through. The other issue is when you hire police officers, there are probably going to be more people arrested. But we have Geiger out there, the correctional facility, which is already at twice capacity, and it's a revolving door for criminals. So before you hire more police officers, you also have to need to think through, well, where are these people going to go if we arrest more of them? We don't currently have the infrastructure to support it. So I want more well thought out programs.
And since he addressed me, can I have a quick rebuttal on that?
Yes, you may.
Yeah, so I just wanted the sugary drink tax, that was an idea from folks on the South Hill, and they said, please give us options. My options are, for police, are property tax, sales tax, sugary drink, and the voters should decide, not me, not anyone else. And also the jail use by the city is way down. We're not part of the problem at Geiger. We've saved over $1 million last year on jail usage because of our smart justice policies.
Bruce, what should the city be doing to address homelessness in Spokane?
I think they've already taken a good step, and the churches also, with the facilities that are being built in this neighborhood that we're in today, we see more people. And I visit with them every day because I see them every day because I walk downtown, I live downtown. In my entire time in Spokane, I've lived between 6th Avenue and the river and Brown's Addition. So I probably know more homeless people and everything than anybody else in the city. And if they voted, I'd be in city council right now. So.
Okay. Brian, what should the city be doing to address homelessness in Spokane?
So there's two big problems. One is chronic homeless, the people who are literally sleeping on our streets if there's not a bed. And we started this last winter, a unique program. We got all the homeless providers together and started what we call 24/7 homeless shelter. And we basically had a low barrier bed. Anyone could come, even if you had an animal. If you had families, you could go to a family shelter. And that really got people off the streets in the winter. We ran out of money until recently we put that money in. Just so folks know, most of that is paid for private donations, over $7 million each year, mostly from churches and nonprofits. The second issue is long-term housing for the chronically disabled who are just not going to be able to afford housing. And we are building more and more of those units. And by 2021, we should have enough units that we will really have few people who are the homeless people that you see visibly. So we're hopefully funding that short-term for the next couple years while we get those other units built.
Okay. Andy, what should the city be doing to address homelessness in Spokane?
So just to put it in context, the last couple of years when they do their one-day overnight survey, there are about 1,000 homeless folks out there in the streets, and that's a difficult, heartbreaking situation. What Brian referred to in terms of the 24/7 coverage is a noble idea, but it also points to the city having not thought something through. I can't think of anything more cruel than to provide a system of 24/7 coverage, then pull it in March, and then reactivate it somewhere this summer. And to reactivate it, they've taken over $500,000 out of the general fund in reserves. That's not a sustainable solution. So I absolutely agree with Brian and others that we need to address the situation, including the revolving door of homeless ending up in jails, which is the least productive, most expensive solution. But we need a sustainable budget we need to think it through, and we need to build it out.
Tony, what should the city be doing to address homelessness in Spokane?
Well, this year we gave more money to the homeless. If it's not working, don't keep throwing more money at it. We have more homeless people this year than last year. But we have to look at those. It's a way of life for some people. We've always had hobos on the trains. So it's a way of life we're not going to be able to help. But we have to look at the mentally ill. We have to look at the families that are homeless. Why are they homeless? Help them out. They don't want just money given to them. They want a good meal. They want a job. They want skills. We need to have more skills where they can learn a good job and go out working. I love A Cup of Cool Water. They're over on 2nd Street. This organization is strictly funded by nonprofits, the churches, people. They have their fundraiser October 5th at the Lincoln Center. I invite you to come sit at my table. Strictly by donations, they teach young people, this is the homeless youth, they give them skills. They teach them how to use Microsoft, PowerPoint. They give them the skills to work, go to jobs and work. That's the dignity they want, and that's the dignity we need to give our homeless.
Thank you. Brian, there seems to be a problem with abandoned or foreclosed homes and abandoned cars. What solutions should the city be employing?
So for the houses, basically vacant houses that banks have foreclosed on, but they're not selling, Councilmember Waldrop and I put a new law in last year, and we have a registry where banks have to pay money each year, and then we have a contractor that goes out and monitors and makes sure that they are not broken into, that the yards are taken care of, that the pipes aren't frozen. And then it also addresses people that don't keep up their houses in an unsafe manner. We need some help from the legislature to allow us to really move these faster. And we went to the legislature, and it was our legislative priority. We didn't get it done this year. But that's more work to do on that so that we can get them back in the economy, which will lower housing for everyone. On cars, we are now using license plate readers on our garbage trucks as they go through the neighborhoods so that they can identify cars that have been there and haven't moved, and then neighborhood code enforcement can take care of them.
Andy, there seems to be a problem with abandoned or foreclosed homes and abandoned cars. What solutions should the city be employing?
So there are about 1,300 homes in foreclosure, if I understand it correctly, and there are about 31,000 homes within 1,000 feet of those foreclosed homes. So you take those foreclosures, you can take abandoned homes and what's called nuisance homes, and what happens is it drives down home values in neighborhoods, and it increases the amount of police response you need for them. What I'd like to see happen in the registry is one aspect of it is to have the city take 1 to 3 what I call hot spots or clusters, where you've got a number of foreclosed, abandoned nuisance homes, and work across lines to come up with a program for how do we turn it around. So that would include working with the neighborhood to talk about single versus multifamily dwellings, what fits the character. It would be working with developers on financing options. It would be working with the city on zoning and permitting options. If you can put it together and prove how people can come together in one area, then we can scale it up and build it out to other areas of the city.
Tony, there seems to be a problem with abandoned or foreclosed homes and abandoned cars. What solutions should the city be employing?
I learned something new from Mr. Beggs. I have 4 children, so we have lots of cars in our parking lot, outside our car. We do not move them every day, so I guess we need to make sure they're driving more often. But as far as our homeless with our homes that are vacant, I'd like to see us give skills to our homeless so they can learn how to rebuild a home, fix up a home, and be able to sell that home and collect property taxes. Right now, sitting there, what good is it doing? It's bringing down value of houses in the neighborhood. I think we need to give tax credits to our developers to go in and buy these old homes that are decrepit, torn down, half torn down, and fix them back up and sell them on the market. I believe if developers went in the private marketplace and fixed these homes up, we would have more homes, more affordable homes here in Spokane.
Bruce, there seems to be a problem with abandoned or foreclosed homes and abandoned cars. What solutions should the city be employing?
I think you need to take a comprehensive look at what we're doing now, just take abandoned cars, real simple solution, and it saves money. You pass an ordinance where you park Monday, Wednesday, Friday on one side, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday on the other. I don't need garbage trucks to read license plate numbers. If they don't move, you ticket them, you move them, so there's a revenue source. Bloomsday comes along in our neighborhood. We've got police department out there, overtime pay, moving the cars, trying to get the streets cleared. And if it was a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it'd be easy to clear the streets. People are used to it. And it gets rid of the abandoned vehicle problem. You call for abandoned vehicles now, you call the hotline, it takes them 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get there, to get it moved, and that's where we're at. Skip right over to the housing. Most of the housing problem, abandoned houses, that has to be dealt with the state legislators. It's something that the city really doesn't have authority to do.
Andy, what can the city do to address mental health needs in our community?
The mental health needs is one of the most persistent chronic problems that we faced, and of course we faced it for years. In 2015, Providence and Sacred Heart came out with a community health assessment and listed mental health as a top priority. Currently, there are about 8 to 11% of the people, that's 20,000 folks in Spokane, who need help. We don't have enough beds, we don't have enough services for these folks. And again, a lot of them end up in the jail, which is the most costly program possible. So we need to be able to work with providers. We need to be able to collect data on these people, which is a difficult privacy concern, so that we can get the full picture of what their needs are. And we need to basically get them into the right program, get them there quickly rather than the jail system, so that they can get the help. One of the tragedies of the jail system is once it goes on their record, it makes it that much harder for them to get housing and employment. So it's really a vicious cycle that we can only break if we're willing to deal with the person as a whole, and that means sharing information and resources.
Tony, what can the city do to address mental health needs in our community?
This is a tough situation, tough question, because you just can't put somebody away only for, 24 hours? Somebody needs help, but they're 18 years of age. You can't hold them to give them the help. Unfortunately, I had a family member that needed help. As long as he was on his medication, he was doing fine. When he stopped taking his medication, our family knew he was off his medication, we would help him. But he eventually took his own life because of his mental health disease he had. It is a disease that we have to treat within our medical community, and we have to give people help that they need.
Bruce, what can the city do to address mental health needs in our community?
I think they're spending a lot on resources at the present time. I've had lots of family problems related to that, runaways, getting them home, what parents can do legally anymore to restrain their kids and get them help. Everything is so short term. You cannot solve a problem in 30 minutes, a day, 2 days. Things that cure mental health are years and years in the making, and we've done the same thing with the institutions, Medical Lake. We've have these programs, we get them in, get them out as quick as we can. It's a revolving door. They end up back in the same facility. Doesn't work. Again, it's a system that's broke. We need to find a solution. And you're not going to find it with the city council. You're not going to find it with the state. It's going to take a national solution to get this problem under control.
Brian, what can the city do to address mental health needs in our community?
Well, it's mostly a state and federal funding issue, but we don't have any choice but to deal with it regardless of the money. I've been involved in 3 projects that help. One is helping to establish community court at the library, where we use low-level crimes, people who commit them downtown. They go to court on Monday at the library. They get assessed for their needs, and their sentence, in addition to community service, is going to the conference room next door and having their needs met, whether it's housing, mental health, or just getting a driver's license. The second program is crisis intervention training for the police. We are now asking the police to be the front line on the mentally ill. And I represented the family of Otto Zem, who died at the hands of the police. And the settlement we achieved in 2012 was that all police officers would get 40 hours of crisis intervention training. That's making a huge difference. Now they're even bringing social workers along with them to meet with people. And finally, I'm involved right now in the development of a plan for a crisis intervention center so that when the police pick up a mentally ill, instead of taking them to the jail, they go to a stabilization center. We're hoping to get that funded in the next year.
Okay. You answered everything so succinctly that you have extra time for your closing statements. Tony, so anyway, just to back up for a minute, you each have 3 minutes, and you can say whatever you would like to say and whatever I didn't ask you, but you would like the voters to know. So let's start with you, Tony.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for having us here today. Again, my name is Tony Keepy. I'm a candidate for City Council in District 2. I want to be your candidate. I want to serve all citizens of Spokane and of our district. Again, we have to look at our priorities. What are our priorities? What are our needs? What are our wants? We need to fund our needs first. Once our needs are funded, which to me is public safety, our police, our fire, and 2 will be our roads, our road infrastructure. Are we using the right type of material? I've talked to contractors, and they tell me that we use very poor material. Years ago, we have 20 years of not keeping our roads up, so this is why they're in such bad shape. We've got to make a long-term plan to keep our roads, and I'm the person to help do that. I want to grow our businesses. Last year, our city council passed an ordinance where you're required to give sick leave for your employees, 2 hours for every 30 hours worked. This is going to be a burden on the businesses here in December when the employees realize they need to take their time, take it off so they can, so the business will not be able to work or operate that week because more employees are taking time off the last week of December. They're really concerned about this. Also, when I've talked to businesses, they're concerned that employees are taking 8 hours as soon as they accrue it, but when they're really sick, they're not going to have the time they need. But we're all for good businesses. Let the free market enterprise grow our businesses, good paying jobs. We don't need to regulate them with government, but we want our businesses to do well in the city. But I'm here to serve you, help you, and I appreciate your vote on August 1st.
Bruce, you have 3 minutes for a closing statement.
Usually that's not enough. Anyway, I think I'm the best qualified. I have more experience in government than probably the entire city council combined. I've been a certified building official. I ran a building department. I've been a plans examiner. I've been on the police department. I ran the Economic Development Corporation. I've ran social programs. I've worked at state government, county government, been a veteran, worked on a farm, raised on a farm, ran businesses, motels, hotels, used car lots, consulting firms. I've been a consultant to several Department of Housing and Urban Development, Seattle, Region 10, ran training sessions for them, ran training sessions for various community colleges. I've taught at the university. I've taught at the junior college. I've been a city manager, run the road grader, ran a sewage treatment plant, run the water treatment facility, built subdivisions, water sewer lines, curbs, gutters, sidewalks, been an inspector on those, built those, senior citizen centers. I've written probably $25 million in federal grants, both for city, county, and state governments. So based on that, you know, I believe that I'm the best qualified for the position. And I don't believe in the PACs. I think we have more political action groups and more people messing and stuff than we do qualified voters in the general public. And I'd appreciate your vote.
Brian, you have 3 minutes for a closing statement.
I just wanted to share a few more things about my background before I close. First of all, I've been a downtown small business owner for many years, both in Spokane and in Bellingham. So I understand what it means to make payroll and what regulations are and what works and what doesn't work. I like working with business. I'm considered a pragmatic person, tries to get solutions to problems. I'm considered a collaborator. I do mediations for people. I attend mediations. When I came back in 2004 to Spokane, my job was really at the Center for Justice to represent all people and people that didn't have much influence in government. So I started working with government. And how could it work for all of us? for the whole city so that we could grow the city together, grow businesses and grow jobs together. And I enjoyed doing that for several years. Eventually I went back to private practice. But I was thrilled when I had the chance to come inside City Hall and be able to bring my experience helping everyday people into the city, my experience with open government into the city, my experience with reducing crime, improving police, my experience just with better process. So I've only been there for a short time, a little over a year, but I've seen the difference that a pragmatic and collaborative lawyer can make in city council and government. And I'm really proud of that ability to serve, and I thank folks for letting me serve that long. I'm working for what matters most. People want to be safe in their homes, in their neighborhoods, on the streets and sidewalks. And for more than 25 years as a lawyer, I've been protecting people and the community from criminals, abusers, dangerous drivers, and streets, sometimes even the government when it overreaches. When I came on council a little over a year and a half ago, I've been spending my time making sure that our city is reducing crime, that we're improving the police department, and that we are rebuilding our roads and sidewalks faster than we ever have in our history. I look forward to continuing that work and growing businesses and jobs throughout the entire city. Spokane truly is in play for a remarkable tomorrow for all of us. And with your support, I can help us get us there. Please, thank you for your vote to retain Brian Beggs for Spokane City Council.
Andy, you have 3 minutes for a closing statement.
Well, thank you. Way back when I got my master's degree in public administration, I got a good understanding of numbers and finance and public policy. But it's really 30 years of being in business that taught me how things work on the ground. And it taught me about collaboration and working together to build programs. So when I see a need, I'm looking at pulling people together, finding common ground, finding incentives, finding partnerships, doing the things you need to do with innovation to break out of cycles which are difficult to break out of. And I've had a tremendous amount of success with that in both K-12 education and the natural resource world. That contrasts to, frankly, what I see a lot of currently in Spokane City Council. I don't believe in ever expanding ordinances and new ordinances. I don't believe in new taxes. So for instance, there's a property tax in the offing for the sidewalk need, even though there's a 2-year backlog in taking care of what we have right now. There's an initiative out there for rails to find rail cars as they come through. That's going to end up in very costly litigation, which drains the budget and takes our eye off of basic services. There is an idea floated that people should start paying a $25 a month fee to be able to park in front of their own home. Spokane is not Seattle. So my view, and the reason I'm asking for people's vote, is let's get back to the center. Let's get back to the middle where we work together and we reach across the aisle with each other. And let's do it through collaboration and through innovation.
Thank you to the candidates for Spokane City Council District 2, Position 2. Again, they are Brian Beggs, Andy Dunau, Tony Keepy, and Bruce Benata. This concludes our primary election candidate forum. The League will host a general election forum in late September for the top 2 finishers in these and other contested races in the general election. And in case you joined us after the program began, here is a reminder about voting in the primary. You must be registered in order to vote. You can register by mail or online by July 3rd, 2017, up to 29 days prior to Election Day, August 1st, 2017. You can register in person up to July 24th, 2017, 8 days prior to Election Day, at the Spokane County Elections Office, 1033 West Gardner Avenue. Registered voters will receive their mail-in ballots about 3 weeks prior to Election Day. Ballots must be postmarked or deposited in conveniently located ballot boxes no later than 8 p.m. on Election Day, August 1st, 2017. Ballots can be dropped off on Election Day at one of the voter service centers. For locations of ballot boxes or voter service centers, or information about accessible voting units, or other questions about casting your ballot, contact the Spokane County Elections Office, 477-2320, or go to www.spokanecounty.org/elections. Contact information for the candidates, as well as a voter's guide, can also be found on the website of the Spokane County Elections Office. Additional information about the candidates can be found on the League of Women Voters online voter guide, www.vote411.org. The League of Women Voters of the Spokane area is a nonpartisan political organization encouraging informed and active participation in government, influencing public policy through education and advocacy. We invite you to visit our website, www.lwvspokane.org, for more information. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of the Spokane area, thank you to all of the candidates for their participation in this forum, and thank you, our viewing audience, for the willingness to learn more about the candidates and their issues. We hope that this forum has helped you in making an informed decision when you cast your ballot by Tuesday, August 1st, 2017. Thank you for joining us.